Hi everyone, and welcome to the video presentation for module number 6. This is a very short one, but I just want to give us kind of a tutorial on how to actually write intervals on the staff. Our last one dealt with how to identify intervals on the staff, so this will be about writing them. So after this video, we'll be able to write major, minor, and perfect intervals on the staff. Okay. So a quick little reminder, the parts of an interval and what it is. An interval is a measurement of the distance between two notes. For example, something can be a perfect fifth, a major third, perfect unison, perfect octave. There are harmonic and melodic intervals, but they're measured the same way. And so on the staff, harmonic intervals would just look like a stack, right? They'll just be one on top of the other. And melodic intervals will, look like there's one, and then you wait a little bit and you see the other one, right? They're separated, but they're measured in exactly the same way, and they're written in exactly the same way. Okay? There are two parts to the measurement of an interval. One is the number or tonal interval class. That's like, unison, second, third, octave, etc. And that's determined by the distance on the staff. So the amount of space that those two notes cover on the staff. And then the other part is the modifier or quality, and that's determined by the distance of the number of half steps between the two notes, and that's affected by accidentals. So the number tonal interval class is not affected by accidentals, but the modifier or quality is. Okay? So for that reason, when you're writing an interval on the staff, the first thing you should do is add the note that creates the correct tonal interval class. So the one that creates the correct number, the one that creates the amount of space that is called for by the label that's given. Okay, so when you're doing these, you'll always be given a note, and then you'll be given an interval you're supposed to spell, and it will also have a quality. So it will say like perfect fourth, like this one does, and it will also give you a direction, because you have to know which way you're going from this note to create a perfect fourth. So in this case, this is asking for a perfect fourth above that B flat. So you just add the note that is 4 lines and spaces above that B flat, and of course you include the B flat in that counting, right? Because this is the amount of space that it's covering, not necessarily the distance between the two notes, right? The amount of space covered on the staff, and you can see that this covers 1, 2, 3, 4 lines and spaces. Okay, so in some cases you might be done by just adding that note, but you always have to check to see if that is the right quality for the requested interval. All right, and you do that by comparing it to a scale, a major or minor scale. A perfect interval, right, will be the same between major and minor. So in this case, this perfect fourth, that E up there, that doesn't actually belong in the scale of this interval. And the scale of this interval is the scale of B flat, right? So that E natural doesn't belong in either B flat major or B flat minor. So instead, it needs to be a E flat to be correct, because that's the note that belongs in the scale of the lowest note. Okay, so that would be the answer for that one. All right, so add the note that creates the correct tonal interval class, the correct number, and then check it, and if you need to, add any accidentals. Okay, now that seems pretty basic, but these things can get kind of confusing, especially when we get into some more advanced intervals, so it's always important to follow this step-by-step process. So I'm going to give you some examples here, and we're going to first deal with adding notes above a given note, and then we'll talk about adding notes below a given note. So you always want to follow this method of adding the note first and then checking and adding any accidentals. So let's look at this one over here. We're going to be given an E flat on the bottom of the staff, and we need to spell a major sixth, so capital M means major, sixth above that E flat. So step number 1, just add the number of, count up the number of lines and spaces until you get to 6, and then that's the note you need to add. So there we have a sixth. Now we need to check to see if that is a major sixth, and you do that by comparing it to the scale of the lowest note in the interval, and that's an E flat. So if you know your scales, you know that C natural does belong in the key of E flat. So we don't need to do anything to change that. It is a major scale, right? Because that C natural belongs in the key of E flat major. All right, let's look at another one. This is asking for a perfect fifth above a B natural. So step number 1, just count up 5 lines and spaces until you get to the 5th one, which is going to be on that line right there. Then you need to check to see if this is the correct interval. So is it perfect? So then you need to think about the scale of the lowest note, and the lowest note is a B, and you know that the key of B major or B minor does not have an F natural in it, it has an F sharp. So you need to add a sharp in order for this 5th to be perfect. Okay? All right, one more over here. We're going to try to find a minor second above that F. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is just count up 2 lines and spaces, and we know that we need to add a G for this to be a second. Then we want to check to see if that is a major or minor interval. And so in a F major scale, a major second, right, the second scale degree will be major, right? So that is a G natural, but we need this to be minor. So whenever you need to make a minor interval, you take whatever should be in the major scale and you lower it by a half step. So in order to lower that G by a half step, we don't make it an F sharp, we make it a G flat. You just add the accidental in front of it. Okay? So that's how you would spell a minor second above that F. A quicker way might be to imagine a piano, but this way you avoid, the mistake of thinking that a F natural to an F sharp is a minor second, because that's not a minor second. That's something else, okay? But F to G flat is a minor second. All right, so let's look at how you do this going in the downward direction. So this is about adding notes below a given note. And this is the same process, we're just going the other direction, and it can be a little bit confusing because you're not given the scale, you're not given the lowest note, so you're not given the scale to compare the interval to. So I'll show you some ways around that. So first, let's look at this one here. This is asking you to spell a major third below this C. Okay, so start out the same way, count down 3 lines and spaces. So we know we're going to be adding an A. Okay. Then you want to check to see if that makes sense with the interval you're trying to make. So is A to C, now that you've added that A, is A to C actually a major third? And it's not, because A to C is part of a minor scale, right? A to C sharp would be a major third, but A to C natural is not a major third. It's actually a minor third. So that means that interval right there is too small. So we need to find a way to make it a little bit bigger by 1/2 step in order to make it into a major third. So you can see I found those 2 notes on the piano. I have an A and a C, right? And right now if you counted those half steps between those notes, you'd see there are 3 half steps. So we need to make this bigger by 1 more half step, and we'll do that by adding an accidental. So when you turn that A into an A flat, you'll see that the note changes on the piano, so it's bigger by 1/2 step. So it was a minor third, and now that we've made it bigger, it's a major third. Okay? All right. Let's look at another one. We need to spell a perfect 4th below this B flat. And we can just count down until we get to 4. And we see that adding an F will make this a 4th. And we know that the 4th note of F major, which is now our lowest note, is B flat. So that is correct. We don't need to alter it at all, but you can confirm that it is indeed the space it needs to be, which is 5 half steps on the piano. Okay? Now one thing I want to point out is you never want to change the note that you're given. I see that a lot from students. You think, oh, okay, well, I'll just change the note that I'm given. But that is not what you want to do. We need to be spelling the intervals based on the note that you're given without altering it. So we're always going to be altering the note that you write. Okay, so for this one, we need to spell a minor 6th below that E. So just count down 6 lines and spaces till you get to the G. So now you can compare that to a G major scale, since you know that the lowest note is a G. And based on that, you can tell that that E natural does belong in G major, so this is in fact a major 6th and not a minor 6th. So we need to do the same thing where we make it 1/2 step smaller than what's on the staff right now. So on the piano you can see I have a G and an E. So I need to make this smaller by 1/2 step, and I can only move the lowest note. So I want to make that white key move up to that black key there, and I can do that by adding a sharp in front of the G to make it a G sharp, and there's our answer. That is a minor sixth. Okay? So those are some, I think, pretty good examples. I don't think the things in the assignment get too tricky, and in fact, I think in the assignment, you're only supposed to add notes above the given note. So you shouldn't have to worry about the trickiness of looking at notes below. Okay? But just follow this process. You want to add a note that creates the correct tonal interval class. And then the second step is to check the quality based on the lowest note, right? If it matches what should be in a major scale, then it will be major or perfect. If it is not correct, then you will need to add an accidental to the note that you've written to correct it. Okay? All right, well, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to post it to the forum. Otherwise, we can talk about it in the Zoom session, or you can send me an email. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great day.